Oh, wow. Just woke up. Clearly, thought I'd get some reading in before the day gets on. The sun is just popping out. I did have to do some research because I was like, when was Marie Antoinette? And it's like exactly the same time that Jane Austen was alive. Jane Austen was alive during the French Revolution, during the American Revolution. The independent Declaration of Independence was signed. Then the French Revolution, the French based their stuff on the Declaration of Independence. It all happened around the same time that Jane Austen was alive, and she didn't even get to travel much. And like, it all happened around the same exact time. Marie Antoinette, 1755 to 1793. She died super young too. I think it feels different. And obviously, I'm just basing all this clearly just on movies that I've seen because I didn't pay attention in school. So I am, it's never too late to learn. It's never too late to learn. Jane Austen, 1775 to 1817. They were born in around the exact same time. And so I think just the fashions are so different. And so that's when in the movie with Keira Knightley, in the Keira Knightley movie, when Caroline's like, "Oh, that one so and so is decorating her whatever room in the French style. How odious." That makes so much sense to me now because it was like Marie Antoinette was like fashion, feathers, big hair, white, wigs, whatever. She was, I mean, from what I've seen from the Kirsten Dunst movie, it's just, it's all coming together and having a deeper understanding of the world and its events. And Napoleon was right around this time too, 1779. No, 1769 is what it says to 1821. We're gonna get there. I also had to kind of dig a little deeper into like satire of Jane Austen because even the opening line is like filled with irony and satire. And I guess when I think of satire, I think of like Family Guy or South Park, where it's just in your face satire. So when I heard that Jane Austen is like, she uses satire and irony, and I'm like, okay. There's like so many levels to reading. It's like just getting through the pages and the words and the like idea of it, and then you really should read a book a second time, and then you're like, oh, okay, I get this is actually kind of funny, like I'm definitely laughing more this time around. And then it's like this deeper English lit where it's like, okay, the truth universally acknowledged, first of all, hyperbole is just like this, that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife, and they almost certainly never are. But that's literally just, oh, that sun. Ooh. It's literally just how it had to be back then because men just had to be like, I need to marry. Women need to marry in order to like make it because they could never have land. They could never get land because it was always entailed to a man. And so like people just had to like they had to like rescue women and be like, fine, I guess I'll marry this person. I don't even like them. So I'm starting to get it. I'm starting to get into it. I'm starting to get it. There's so many good articles out there. I saw a good video, and I should be better about remembering people's videos that I watch. It had something to do with books, and what was her name? I'll see if I can try and figure out how to cite my sources on the next video, but she said there's like a Jane Austen July. Her and her friends do this like Jane Austen July thing, and they read all these books, and she said Pride and Prejudice was the best first one to read, which is great news for us if anybody's reading along together with me. And that's cool. and just people really enjoying satire and irony. So I'm going to try and look for that. I mean, obviously, the whole Lydia Wickham thing of like, she's going to be the most ruined, awful, terrible person in the world, and she's going to be fine. So there's irony there, and I'm getting it. I'm understanding it. There's a huge article here about that first line of the book, irony, exploring irony and Pride and Prejudice on a website called alwaysausten.com. Y'all, there is like Jane Austen merch, Jane Austen cups, Jane Austen teacups. They're like reading is fun, reading is important, and I'm trying to get into it. This girl was talking about Charles Dickens too, and how odious that is also. So maybe Charles Dickens is in our future, but maybe not. Maybe not. We're gonna try to smaller circles. We're just gonna get through Pride and Prejudice, and I'm gonna just be on the lookout for irony. I don't know that I'll be able to be like, got it, irony, but I do think I am laughing more of just like, that's a silly thing to say because obviously that's not true, but there's also a layer of like, I don't really know what the times were like. Maybe this is a true and accurate description of what times were like. So is it, and also Elizabeth is just getting to know these people, and it's their first impression of Mr. Darcy. He is a proud and prejudiced we're all proud, we're all prejudiced, and Mr. Darcy ends up being a nice guy. Surprise. Ooh, spoiler. Spoiler, Mr. Darcy ends up being kind of nice. We don't know how or why, so it's not that big of a spoiler. And I did have to look on Reddit about that conversation that we read about last time because I was so confused because I was just trying to get through the words. But it is like Mr. Darcy was saying his friend Mr. Bingley was too swayed by other people. And Elizabeth was like, it's cool for people to be flexible, chill out. But I do think Mr. Darcy is like, I wouldn't even have the guts to talk to people I don't know, and she's just like challenging me. This is cool. Like, I think he's into the challenge of her, and she's just like, yeah, I don't know any of you, but it's to chill out. And Bingley's like, can you guys take it into the other room? Can you guys go get a room? Golly. Oh, I'm gonna go get my coffee real quick. Pausing. Okay, I did get my coffee. It is chilly cold outside. It's winter, February 10th today, Monday, February 10th. Yes, Monday, February 10th, and it is sunny. The sun is already up, which is nice. It's like 8 o'clock, and it's normally like darker because it's been winter, but the sun is coming up. It's moving a little more northerly, the sun. I've been really just like trying to get into watching sunrises and sunsets, and it's been really nice to like watch the sun move on the horizon every morning. When you don't pay attention, you're just like, yeah, it's the sunrise, but it moves. Okay. Chapter 11. When the ladies removed after dinner, Elizabeth ran up to her sister and, seeing her well guarded from cold, attended her into the drawing-room, where she was welcomed by her two friends with many professions of pleasure. And Elizabeth had never seen them so agreeable as they were during the hour which passed before the gentlemen appeared. They're nice when the men aren't there, but when the men enter, they become little cat scratch fever sassafrasses. A little more coffee in there. Their powers of conversation were considerable. They could describe an entertainment with accuracy, relate an anecdote with humor, and laugh at their acquaintance with spirit. That's a really funny way to describe how people are speaking. But when the gentleman entered, Jane was no longer the first object. Miss Bingley's eyes were instantly turned toward Darcy, and she had something to say to him before he had advanced many steps. He addressed himself to Miss Bennet with a polite congratulation. Mr. Hertz also made her a slight bow, sweet, and said he was very glad. but diffuseness and warmth remained for Bingley's salutation. Sweet boy, sweet boy. He was full of joy and attention. The first half hour was spent in piling up the fire, lest she should suffer from the change of room, and she moved at his desire to the other side of the fireplace, that she might be further from the door. He then sat down by her and talked scarcely to anyone else. Oh, Elizabeth, at work in the opposite corner, saw it all with great delight. Oh. When tea was over, Mr. Hertz reminded his sister-in-law of the card table, but in vain. He just wants to play cards and eat food. He loves to eat. I don't think Mr. Hertz was in the Keira Knightley movie. I'm going to have to go watch the Colin Firth. I'm sure other actors were in that. In all of these movies, other actors were in them. It was just Keira Knightley in Pride and Prejudice. Mr. Hertz. It would be funny to watch him if he was funny see if he's funny in the, it was probably a BBC thing or something, huh? I'll have to go look it up. She had obtained private intelligence that Mr. Darcy did not wish for cards, and Mr. Hurst soon found even his open petition rejected. She assured him that no one intended to play, and the silence of the whole party on the subject seemed to justify her. No one wants to play, God. Mr. Hertz had therefore nothing to do but to stretch himself on one of the sofas and go to sleep. Darcy took up a book. Oh, is he like mimicking Elizabeth? That's so sweet. Miss Bingley did the same. And Mrs. Hurst, principally occupied in playing with her bracelets and rings, joined now and then in her brother's conversation with Miss Bennet. Miss Bingley's attention was quite as much engaged in watching Darcy's progress through his book as in regarding her own, and she was perpetually either making some inquiry or looking at his page. This woman is scandalous. Everybody was making fun of Elizabeth for reading, I think, and now everybody's reading, and Miss Bingley's like, what are you reading? Can you imagine somebody looking over your shoulder and reading along with you? What are we in? Junior high? Wow. Was perpetual, and she was perpetually looking at it. She could not win him, however, to any conversation. He merely answered a question and read on. At length, quite exhausted by the attempt to be amused with her own book, which she had only chosen because it was the second volume of his, she gave a great yawn and said, "How pleasant it is to spend an evening in this way." Okay, I'm starting to see it. She's bored as heck, and she's just yawning. That's funny. I declare, after all, there is no enjoyment like reading. She hasn't even read anything. How much sooner one tires of anything than a book? When I have a house of my own, I shall be miserable if I have not an excellent library. She is... No one made any reply. Then she yawned again and threw aside her book and cast her eyes round the room in quest for some amusement. She is bored. There's nothing worse than a bored person in a group of people who are perfectly content and occupied. It's just like, do you want to drink? That's college. Okay. When hearing her brother mentioning a ball to Miss Bennet, she turned suddenly toward him and said, "By the by, Charles, are you really serious in meditating a dance at Netherfield? I would advise you, before you determine on it, to consult the wishes of the present party. I am much mistaken if there are not some among us whom a ball would rather be a punishment than a pleasure." "If you mean Darcy," cried her brother, "he may go to bed if he chooses before it begins. But as for the ball, it is quite a settled thing. And as soon as Nichols has made white soup enough, I shall send round my cards." Did they have to make paper? Make white soup? Enough. As soon as I said, what's it? As soon as white, what's simmer your bread in the bouillon? No, white soup. Wait. Did they just eat white soup? Okay, I have to go to Reddit. As soon as my website. Also, cards around the table. Cards are probably invitation cards. Yes, I know that. I'm not sure who would have written them out, but impossible who should do them as personal correspondence. It was the first time you're reading it. Miss Bennett's excited. So many details about the soup. I can see why the cook needed some time to get it ready. Oh, it's like a big, it's like a, whoa. Okay, I'm getting distracted. I know. Defining white soup. Anyone who's read the page of Pride and Prejudice should recognize white soup as a favored recipe in the time period. Oh, I thought it was like they were making paper and they called it white soup. and then they had to make the paper from the white soup, and then they had to write the invitations out. Okay. White soup is a recipe that conveys an amount of status. White soup was, and largely still is, a recipe that confers a certain amount of status. Recipes for it are often very complex and utilize a vast and expensive array of ingredients. Whoa. Flour and sugar were historically status symbols because they received more processing and thus were more expensive, though not at all as healthy. Whoa, and they're cheaper unrefined than their cheaper unrefined counterparts. Whoa. There's a bunch of recipes for white soup. Dating this recipe, this would be 1615. Not quite medieval by historian standards. Whoa, you guys. I honestly thought when I first read this that I didn't look it up, so that's why I'm looking it up now. I really thought when he said white soup, he meant that they had to make the paper. So, white soup enough, I shall send round my cards. So he had to make sure that the white soup was made before he could send out the invitation cards. That's so funny to me. I should like balls infinitely better, she replied, if they were carried on in a different manner, but there is something insufferably tedious in the usual process of such a meeting. It would surely be much more rational if conversation instead of dancing were made the order of the day. Much more rational, my dear Caroline, I dare say, but it would not be near so much like a ball. Caroline said that in the movie to Mary because Mary said that it would be rational if conversation instead of dancing were made in the order of the day. And then Caroline was like, but rather less like a ball. That's funny that Caroline said that in the books. That's funny. Miss Bingley made no answer. How do you like that? And soon afterwards she got up and walked about the room. She is bored. Her figure was elegant and she walked well, but Darcy, at whom it was all aimed, was still inflexibly studious. In the desperation of her feelings, she resolved on one effort more, and turned to Elizabeth and said, Miss Eliza Bennet, let me persuade you to follow my example and take a turn about the room. I assure you it is very refreshing after sitting so long in one attitude. Elizabeth was surprised, but agreed to it immediately. Miss Bingley succeeded no less in the real object of her civility. Mr. Darcy looked up. He was as much awake to the novelty of attention in that quarter as Elizabeth herself could be, and unconsciously closed his book. He was directly invited to join their party, but he declined it, observing that he could imagine but two motives for their choosing to walk up and down the room together, with either of which motives his joining them would interfere. What could he mean? She was dying to know. What could he mean? She was dying to know what could be his meaning, and Elizabeth asked whether she could at all understand him. Not at all, was the answer, but depend upon it. He means to be severe on us, and our surest way of disappointing will be to ask nothing about it. Miss Bingley, however, was incapable of disappointing Mr. Darcy in anything, and persevered therefore in requiring an explanation of his two motives. "I have not the smallest objection to explaining them," he said, as soon as she allowed him to speak. "You either choose this method of passing the evening because you are in each other's confidence, and have secret affairs to discuss, or because you are conscious that your figures appear to the greatest advantage in walking. If the first, I would be completely in your way, and if the second, I can admire you much better as I sit by the fire." "Oh, shocking!" cried Miss Bingley. "I never heard anything so abominable. How shall we punish him for his speech?" "Nothing so easy if you have but the inclination," said Elizabeth. "We can all plague and punish one another, tease him, laugh at him, intimate, whoa. Intimate as you are, you must know how this is to be done." "But upon my honour I do not. I do assure you that my intimacy has not yet taught me that. Tease calmness of manner and presence of mind." Tease calmness of manner and presence of mind. No, no, feeling may defy us there. And as to laughter, we will not expose ourselves, if you please, by attempting to laugh without a subject. Mr. Darcy may hug himself. "Mr. Darcy is not to be laughed at," cried Elizabeth. "That is an uncommon advantage, and uncommon I hope it will continue, for it would be a great loss to me to have many such acquaintances. I dearly love to laugh." "Must be a family trait." That was funny. "Must be a family trait." "Miss Bingley," he said, "has given me more credit than can be. The wisest and the best of men, nay, the wisest and best of their actions, may be rendered ridiculous by a person whose first object in life is a joke." "Certainly," replied Elizabeth, "there are such people. But I hope I'm not one of them. I hope I never ridicule what is wise and good. Follies and nonsense, whims and inconsistencies do divert me. I own and I laugh at them whenever I can. But these, I suppose, are precisely what you are without." "Perhaps that is not possible for anyone, but it has been the study of my life to avoid those weaknesses which often expose a strong understanding to ridicule." "Don't do anything that anybody will ridicule." "Such as vanity and pride?" "Yes, vanity is a weakness indeed, but pride, where there is a real superiority of mind, pride will always be always under good regulation." Disciplined. Elizabeth turned away to hide a smile. "Your examination of Mr. Darcy is over, I presume," said Miss Bingley, "and pray what is the result?" "I am perfectly convinced by it that Mr. Darcy has no defect. He owns it himself without disguise." "No," said Darcy, "I have made no such pretension. I have faults enough, but they are not, I hope, of understanding. My temper I dare not vouch for. It is, I believe, too little yielding, certainly too little for the convenience of the world. I cannot forget the follies and vices of others so soon as I ought, nor their offences against myself. My feelings are not puffed about with every attempt to move them. My temper would perhaps be called resentful. My good opinion once lost is lost forever." "That is a failing indeed," cried Elizabeth. "Implacable resentment is a shade in character. But you have chosen your fault well. I really cannot laugh at it. You are safe from me. There is, I believe, in every disposition a tendency to some particular evil, a natural defect which not even the best education can overcome." "And your defect is to hate everybody?" "And yours," he replied with a smile, "is willfully to misunderstand them." Whoa, interesting. They do make a good match, huh? They're kind of like good for each other because they're able to talk to each other, and Miss Bingley's just like, ew, she's ugly. Fun. Okay. He says, "And yours," he replied with a smile, "is willfully to misunderstand them." "Do let us have a little music," cried Miss Bingley, tired of a conversation in which she had no share. FOMO, feeling left out. FOMO? Fear of missing out. Right. I can't keep up. Louisa, will you mind waking Mr. Hurst? Her sister had not the smallest objection, and the pianoforte was opened, and Darcy, after a few moments' recollection, was not sorry for it. He began to feel the danger of paying Elizabeth too much attention. Ooh. But there's such a good match, like I said. Like, she's actually, like, engaging. Shall we continue on? Chapter 12. Oh, very short chapter. Chapter 12 is a very short chapter. It's 2 pages. This is great. Perfect. Chapter 12. In consequence of an agreement between the sisters, Elizabeth wrote the next morning to their mother to beg the carriage might be sent for them in the course of the day, so they didn't have to walk or go on horseback again. Mom. But Mrs. Bennet, who had calculated on her daughter's remaining at Netherfield the following day, which would exactly finish Jane's week, could not bring herself to receive them with pleasure before. She said, you will stay exactly a week, and no day sooner. Good for her. Her answer, therefore, was not, oh no, first word of the day, I don't even know how to say this. I just skip over them when I'm not being held accountable. Propitious. What could it possibly mean? Giving or indicating a good chance of success. Oh.
Propitious.
Oh, propitious. I love the way they almost yell at you. Propitious. Okay. Let's go back. This is a really long sentence. Oh no, it's here. Her answer therefore was not propitious, at least not to Elizabeth's wishes, for she was impatient to get home. Mrs. Bennet sent them word that they could not possibly have the carriage before Tuesday, and in a postscript it added that if Mr. Bingley and his sisters pressed them to stay longer, she could spare them very well. Against staying longer, however, Elizabeth was positively resolved, nor did she expect it would be asked, and fearful, on the contrary, as being considered and as intruding themselves needlessly long, she urged Jane to borrow Mr. Bingley's carriage immediately, and at length it was settled that their original design for leaving Netherfield that morning should be mentioned, and the request made. Sorry, Mom, we're coming home early. Sorry to inconvenience you by having our presence at home, and Jane being well. Golly. The communication excited many professions of concern, and enough was said of wishing them to stay at least till the following day to work on Jane. Until the morrow their going was deferred. Miss Bingley was then sorry that she had proposed the delay, for her jealousy and dislike of one sister much exceeded her affection for the other. The master of the house heard with real sorrow that they were to go so soon, and repeatedly tried to persuade Miss Bennet that it would not be safe for her, and she was not enough recovered, but Jane was firm where she felt herself to be right. Good for Jane. To Mr. Darcy it was welcome intelligence. Elizabeth had been at Netherfield long enough. She attracted him more than he liked. And Miss Bingley was uncivil to her, and more teasing than usual to himself. And he did not like that, and he said, I think you need to go. I think Miss Bingley should go, but Elizabeth, you need to go. He wisely resolved to be particularly careful that no sign of admiration should now escape him, nothing that could elevate her with the hope of influencing his felicity, sensible that if such an idea had been suggested, his behaviour during the last day must have material weight in confirming or crushing it. Steady to his purpose, he scarcely spoke 10 words to her through the whole of Saturday, and though they were at one time left by themselves for half an hour, he adhered most conscientiously to his book, and would not even look at her. On Sunday after morning service, the separation so agreeable to almost all took place. Miss Bingley's civility to Elizabeth increased, and at last very rapidly, as well as her affection for Jane. And when they parted, after assuring the latter of the pleasure it would always give her to see her either at Longbourn or Netherfield, and embracing her most tenderly, she even shook hands with the former. Elizabeth took leave of the whole party in the liveliest of spirits. This is where in the movie Mr. Darcy helps her up in the carriage and then his hand, and she was like, what? And my friend back in the day was like, he wasn't supposed to touch her. Like, it was illegal for men to touch women like that. And she was like, huh? And he was like, what did I do? And that hand scene, oh, it's so good. So much tension. This book has good literary tension, but that movie had such good tension. Ooh, the hand scene. And I think I read so fast through this part because I was like waiting for the part, because my friend was like, in the book they talk about it, and he like helped her into the carriage and then the hand, but it's never happened in the book. I was like just reading this book to get to the part where he helps her into the carriage and everybody's like, but it doesn't happen. So that person that told me that was a liar. I just took a big swig of coffee and got on my face. Okay. They were not welcomed home very cordially by their mother. Mrs. Bennet wondered at their coming, and thought they were very wrong to give so much trouble, and was sure Jane would have caught cold again. But their father, though very laconic in his expression of pleasure, I'm going to say laconic means, if I'm saying that right, means like, I think of a lion, I think of like lazy, a person, speech, or style of writing using very few words. His laconic reply suggested a lack of interest. That's what it gave me, like lack of interest. Oh, let's make sure I'm saying it right.
Laconic.
Laconic. Laconic. Why does...
Conic.
Laconic. That's creepy, Google, whoever that is. But their father, though very laconic in his expressions of pleasure, was really glad to see them. He had felt their importance in the family circle. He said, you guys are actually part of this family, so I'm great. It's great to see you. It's great. Even though your mother is saying that she's kind of pissed that you're back. Welcome to the family circle. You are important to us. That is very sweet. The evening conversation... There it is. The evening conversation, when they were all assembled, had lost much of its animation, and almost all its sense by the absence of Jane and Elizabeth. They are valued members of this family. They found Mary, as usual, deep in the study of a thorough base and human nature, and had some extracts to admire, and some new observations of threadbare morality to listen to. Don't know what that is either. Catherine and Lydia had informed them of a different sort. Sorry, I'm going to get it back. Catherine and Lydia had information for them of a different sort. Much had been done and much had been said in the regiment since the preceding Wednesday. Several of the officers had dined lately with their uncle. A private had been flogged, and it had actually been hinted that Colonel Foster was going to be married. Not too much to report. Threadbare morality. Just have to look that up before. Threadbare morality, meaning Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. Miss Austen's own involvement in the issue makes her use the phrase threadbare morality to issue to a merry obsession of quoting moral extracts with no reason, and so without any effect. Okay, she says, that's really funny. Threadbare morality. What, can I just look up what threadbare means? Threadbare. Poor, shabby, becoming thin and tattered. Oh, used so often that it's no longer effective. Some new observations of threadbare morality to listen to. Yeah, she should have married Mr. Collins, huh? That's all for today. I think 2 chapters is quite enough after all my commentary. Thank you very much. Can't wait to see next time, what happens, even though I guess I have already read it, but this new lens of like thinking critically about a piece. Not that I have much commentary to say about, not that I have much intelligent commentary on the matter, but I am excited to learn more. So any help would be great of how to read this better or anything. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Happy reading, everybody. Bye.